The existence of the supreme being according to Kant. After Kant criticized the arguments regarding the existence of the supreme being put forth by earlier philosophers, in this second chapter, the author presents how Kant redefines the issue of the existence of the supreme being. Subsequently, Kant opens up the path to proving the existence of the supreme being through ethical philosophy. He presents this argument with the following points. Firstly, the supreme nature of the moral order. Secondly, the assurance of goodness for perfect happiness. Finally, the existence of the supreme being is a necessary proposition. Kant redefines the issue of the existence of the supreme being. Through these three arguments, we can understand Kant's idea that he criticizes viewpoints suggesting that we can recognize the existence of the supreme being by moving from the field of experience to the field of the unknowable. And he identifies the excesses of pure reason. Is it right to view the relationships between natural phenomena as similar to the relationships between humans and products made by humans? Does the supreme being create everything like a human with intelligence and will creates a watch? We cannot arbitrarily move from the known to the unknown, and we cannot know what is unknown. Just as, creation cannot be equated with construction. Similarly, through empirical observations, even if we see the rationality of nature, that experience is still limited, conditional, and cannot comprehend the infinite, the absolute. Therefore, we see that, scientific knowledge must be limited to the field of experience, which is a necessary field in nature, so this knowledge is not allowed to infringe on the supernatural field, the field of spiritual activities. For Kant, understanding and recognizing reality are the result of the necessary combination of phenomenon, according to the rationalist school, and knowledge, according to the empirical school. When we perceive reality, it must be in line with the faculty. The object perceived by the senses must go through the framework of space and time and 12 categories. In other words, the preconceived framework captures reality. However, according to Kant, there are three objects that do not pass through the framework: freedom, a mortal soul, and the supreme being, because they are not within the realm of empirical knowledge. Therefore, Kant sees pure reason as too limiting, only recognizing phenomena and not knowing the essence itself. So, after criticizing the arguments of the ontological, cosmological, and teleological proofs, Kant redefines the existence of the supreme being. How does he do that? It will be explained below. The supreme nature of the moral order. In Foundations, Kant begins chapter 1 with the statement, "Of all the things that concern us as good on earth, and speaking directly on earth, nothing is absolutely good to us except goodwill." This implies that goodwill is the origin of moral goodness, a good intention that guides our actions to become absolutely good, because goodwill is a self-evident and pre-existing truth. The goodness of Kant is different from the concept of goodness of Greek philosophers. Greek philosophers placed goodness outside reason as an object. Kant, on the other hand, goodness is placed within the soul of man, because goodness is the name of conscience and goodwill. The goodness we speak of is within each of us. Conscience is where each of us lives. Conscience is the ability of reason to distinguish between good and evil with certainty, apparent and pre-existing. The apparent nature of conscience means that every one of us is endowed by the supreme being from birth, following this rule. The nature of conscience is apparent, so humans must listen to the reminders of conscience and act accordingly. And that action, Kant called it an action for duty. I must perform moral duty. Kant's ethics means that I must comes to me as a command to all freedom. Kant believes that freedom and the law of practice are so closely related that one cannot exist without the other. This shows the constraint of freedom and ethics. Ethics is what? If it is not to force humans to act according to reason, under the guidance of conscience. A free action is an action not influenced by empirical events. So, when humans perform moral duty absolutely, it is certain that humans truly know they are free. Meaning that I act according to reason and only pure reason. There is true ethics. I don't let reason be subordinate or influenced by public opinion, emotions, or any desire or self-interest. In addition, freedom also puts humans in a choice of doing or not doing, along with responsibility. Moreover, freedom in ethics leads us to self-respect and regards others as ourselves. This freedom, Kant wants to affirm that humans are independent individuals, truly free. Because humans are not robots like a program tool that does what it is told, and if not told, it stops. Thus, thanks to the law of ethics, humans know they're free. Therefore, the concept of freedom achieves true objective character. Thanks to that, we act as legislators, being conscious of our duty when enforcing the law of ethics. And our actions must become universal laws for everyone. The characteristic of ethical law is unconditional constraint. Not when we want happiness, then we do it, and not as a means for us to find another purpose. Ethical law binds us everywhere, every time, and in every living situation. We must follow ethical law even when that action causes harm and suffering to us. Therefore, awareness of this duty is not only reserved for a few people but has a common character for all humanity. Through experience, Kant realizes an unconditional constraint of logical reasoning and just reward and punishment. Because when looking at life, Kant realizes that the wicked and the dictators live in wealth, prosperity, and encounter many fortunes. Whereas the poor and the virtuous often face many difficulties, hardships, and even exploitation and oppression. When looking at this scene, it is clear that Kant sees that life is irrational. Similarly, even in our conscience, there is a rule that governs, urging us to do good, avoid evil, but it does not force us to enforce it because of freedom. Whenever we do something contrary to the conscience, then, of course, we feel regret, guilt, unease, and thus, it goes against the law of conscience. Therefore, the presence of the Supreme Being is needed as the foundation for that fair reward and punishment. Therefore, Kant believes, everyone has a strong demand for justice, meaning that the good must be rewarded and the wicked must be punished. The moral order must demand that goodness must overcome the forces of evil and injustice, suffering, and death. If not, human life will be irrational and meaningless. And this demand cannot be realized in the life on this earth. So, there must be an absolutely just entity ensuring justice above. In this way, we see that the law of logical reasoning has an order, binding so tightly that we cannot be the author of it. Recognition of a supreme reason as the foundation, principle, and salvation for human nature and ensuring just punishment commensurate with one's actions. Morality is a system of principles and values that guide human behavior and determine what is right or wrong. Different philosophical perspectives offer various explanations for the existence of moral principles and their connection to higher powers or divine entities. Immanuel Kant, a prominent German philosopher, presented his views on the existence of God within the framework of his ethical philosophy. In the context of Kant's philosophy, the pursuit of absolute happiness is central to human existence. Kant argues that humans naturally seek happiness because they are inherently deficient in it. This pursuit drives individuals to strive for more, continuously seeking to fill the void within. However, Kant questions what constitutes absolute happiness. Observing human life, he notes that people are never satisfied with their current state. They want more, something better, and an improvement beyond the material world. For Kant, absolute happiness lies in the realm of moral perfection. He contends that absolute goodness involves continuous progress, an unwavering effort to achieve the highest moral standards. It is the pursuit of moral excellence throughout one's life, the realization of the good will in action. This implies an ongoing commitment to overcoming one's own flaws and desires. By triumphing over oneself, conquering one's own desires, individuals experience a profound sense of comfort and are on the path toward moral perfection. Kant acknowledges the limitations of human capabilities and emphasizes the idea of an unconditional, absolute good. He asserts that humans desire an absolute unconditioned good. In the realm of ethics, Kant defines the absolute good as reaching the highest level possible, signifying continuous striving. It entails the ceaseless effort to fulfill the duties dictated by moral law, bringing individuals closer to the goodness achieved in actions. Kant suggests that true moral goodness involves not only following ethical laws but also continually striving to fulfill these laws throughout one's life. However, Kant raises the question of how one can know when absolute happiness is attained. Due to the finite nature of humans, Kant proposes that individuals hold a belief in something stable beyond the phenomenal world, a foundation for moral activity. He states, "Everything conditioned presupposes something unconditioned. indicating a belief in an unconditional absolute good. This unconditional aspect, namely the supreme being, the highest good, remains unencountered and untouched. Nevertheless, Kant asserts, without the assumption of this unconditional reality, humans would lack the motivation to act. Acknowledging the existence of the supreme being ensures the harmonious coexistence of moral law and the highest good. Without this acknowledgement, human life would lose its meaning, as morality would become a mere illusion. In Kant's perspective, recognizing the existence of God is essential for maintaining the balance between moral law and the supreme good. Kant contends that the existence of God is a necessary postulate for moral activity. His ethical philosophy provides a profound understanding of the metaphysical realm through the experience gained by adhering to absolute moral laws. By practicing moral principles, individuals learn about the immortality of the soul and the existence of God. Kant asserts that in fulfilling moral duties, individuals progress toward an infinite state of moral development. This infinite progression signifies the immortality of the soul in the afterlife, where individuals continue their journey towards ultimate virtue and happiness. In conclusion, Kant's ethical philosophy leads us to the concept of God through the path of moral reasoning. This journey begins with the order of moral law, which demands the existence of a supreme being to ensure justice for ethical principles. Subsequently, ethical actions help individuals deserve happiness in this life, with absolute happiness reserved for the immortal soul in the afterlife. Ultimately, God is the author of moral laws, ensuring the harmony between nature and the purpose of humanity.